You can listen to The Front on your smart speaker every morning. To hear the latest episode, just say, play the news from The Australian.
From The Australian, here's what's on the front. I'm Claire Harvey. It's Wednesday, October 16. Anthony Albanese says he's in politics for the long haul after the opposition suggested his purchase of a $4.3 million beach house suggests he's planning for life after the lodge. The Greens have attacked the purchase, coming as Australians struggle with the cost of housing. A gold mine proposed for Wiradjuri country in New South Wales was blocked after activists cited as evidence an artwork of a blue banded bee. But now links between the activists and the artist are emerging. Those stories are live now at theaustralian.com.au. Kevin Rudd says the US and Australia must deter China's Xi Jinping from invading Taiwan with catastrophic consequences. Today, a provocative book by a very unusual diplomat.
我的普通话说得非常不好，越来越差。我还是个100%老外，因此有。
This is Kevin Rudd, way back in 2011, doing a bit of a humble brag about his ability to speak Mandarin. He says, my Mandarin is very bad. It's getting worse and worse. I'm 100% a foreigner, so I don't understand many Chinese characters. The host asks if he'd compare himself to famous Chinese leader Deng Xiaoping, who returned multiple times to the leadership. This was in 2011, remember, when Julia Gillard had deposed Rudd, and Rudd was cooling his heels as foreign minister. Oh, no, chortles Rudd. Deng is a hugely influential figure who's changed the world. I'm just an Australian politician.
那是胡说八道，为什么呢？邓小平，他是在中国。
Rudd did, of course, come back again, knifing Gillard to become PM and lead Labor to defeat at the 2013 election. He's not just your average politician. Rudd has been an academic and a diplomat, writing a PhD thesis on China's present leader, Xi Jinping. Now he's Australia's ambassador to the United States, and he's turned that thesis into a book in a very undiplomatic kind of way. Rudd's thesis is that Xi has fundamentally changed China and must now be deterred from invading Taiwan.
He argues the danger period is now.
Joe Kelly is the Australian's National Affairs Editor. He's reporting from Washington, DC, and he obtained an early copy of Rudd's new book.
The danger period will last as long as Xi Jinping is in power. This is an extremely hawkish interpretation of Xi Jinping and his influence on China. And the case that Kevin Rudd makes is that there isn't sufficient appreciation of Xi Jinping's ideological worldview and how that worldview has influenced all aspects of Chinese society.
Rudd says Xi isn't just another leader. He says the force of his personality and the totalitarian control of China is so great that he has fundamentally shifted the behaviour of that nation. The biggest risk, Rudd says, is that Xi will invade Taiwan and fundamentally shake the world.
He says if Xi Jinping is successful in reclaiming Taiwan, that his position will then be unassailable. Then the US will go into a period of global decline. And from that moment, the path of world affairs will irrevocably change.
War, whatever its outcome, would generate death and destruction at an unimaginable scale. It would also redefine Chinese, American and global politics and geopolitics in deeply unpredictable yet indelible ways.
However, if Xi Jinping fails, if he launches an attempt to retake Taiwan and fails, this will be seen as a moment of humiliation for him, a repudiation of his own beliefs, and a letdown for China generally. He also says that if the United States and its allies can engineer a situation where the stakes are seen to be too high for Xi Jinping to risk an attempt to reclaim Taiwan, it's unlikely that Xi Jinping's successor would try to take the island territory. And I think that is the trajectory Kevin Rudd is hoping will unfold in real time.
Xi's intention is not just to change China, it is also to change the international order itself, underpinned by an increasingly powerful China as the emerging geopolitical and geoeconomic fulcrum of that order.
Geoeconomic Fulcrum is a classic Ruddism. It was this brand of hyper-articulate, folksy geekdom that made Rudd an unlikely popular hero when he was first elected in 2007. Rudd says Xi's China has rewritten the rules. Its economy is so huge it can disrupt every market, and that's prompting the rest of the world to react by returning to protectionism to try to save their local economies. But change is coming. China's population growth is slowing. It's no longer the world's most populous nation. That's now India.
The one-child policy has produced an unprecedented gender imbalance within the country of more than 30 million after decades of male preference, sex-selective abortion and female infanticide. This has resulted in an unofficial policy of sending large numbers of unmarried men to the developing world to find partners, build businesses and strengthen familial ties with the motherland.
All this is highly unusual from a diplomat.
Kevin Rudd is an unusual person to have appointed as an ambassador. He has a great depth of experience. He is a former prime minister. He is a former foreign minister. He is one of the leading experts in the world on Chinese foreign policy. And so that means that Kevin was always going to take a different approach to this job. So I think when Anthony Albanese made that appointment, he would have known that it would have come with various political consequences, and he must have known that he would need to wear those political consequences.
Coming up, what this means for Australia's relationship with China. Here's the crux of Rudd's book. He says Xi Jinping hopes that his own interpretation of Marxist ideology, a tightly controlled economy, a repressed population, and an aggressive form of nationalism can change the way the world thinks about democracy and human rights. Rudd says one factor working against Xi is that he is, like the rest of us, mortal.
He would probably have to maintain power well into his 90s to appoint enough ideologically reliable younger cadres to enable his long-term political strategy to take root.
China is famously thin-skinned and defensive. So, could this trigger another trade war? Joe doesn't think so.
No, I don't think there's any risk Kevin Rudd's book will ignite that kind of retaliation. Kevin Rudd makes the point that China has deliberately changed its tactical diplomacy. A tactical decision was taken to try and better leverage Chinese influence in the world, that they would shift their approach, but this ultimately would be directed at trying to maximize Chinese influence to achieve its long-term strategic objectives. I think China will continue along that current path of normalizing relations because it sees that at the moment as the best trajectory towards its long-term goals.
Joe Kelly is the Australian's National Affairs Editor. You can read all the best analysis of China from our own Will Glasgow, the only Australian correspondent resident in China, right now at theaustralian.com.au.